Hey friends, welcome back to our two-part series on intuition. In the first part, we talked about what intuition is, why it's important in our quest for authenticity, and how to cultivate it and what it really takes to make sure that we can tap into this very important knowledge that we've been bestowed upon. Now, in this part 2 series, we'll talk about some of the common traps or the common themes that get in the way of us really acting on intuition. We can spend a lot of time cultivating it, and yet if we don't act on our intuition, if we don't take our action based on what's truly aligned, then we probably might never get to our goals. And that is why I've made this video. So, what are some of the key things that can get us in the way? Well, the first big thing that I usually see is a common theme is what I like to call self-stalling. Have you ever had this happen where you know what you need to do, but you still haven't done it yet? And that's in the back of your mind. Intuition has come online, you see it, and we have what I call the self-stalling method. And what that really means, if you think about a visual, you are in your car sitting at a crossroads at an intersection without pedestrians. There's no other cars. There's no obstacles in the way. The red light just turned green. And yet we're still sitting there. And all we need to do is press that gas pedal. We just need to move forward. But we're not. And yet there's nothing stopping us from doing so. So why do we do this to ourselves? And why do we create this stagnant energy even though we know what we need to do? Well, usually it's a form of fear and protection. And what I commonly see is that there's some sort of fear of the loss or protecting ourselves from the unknown. We are in our current area, in our current zone for so long that changing something or changing a dynamic, changing a relationship, whatever that thing is, that is a little scary to us, and we like where we are right now, and we don't know what life on the other end could look like. So how do we break through, and what is an example of this? So let's say you need to have a really hard conversation with someone, and yet you still haven't done it. And it's something that's on your list. You need to do it, and yet you haven't done it, and you're maybe afraid of losing the relationship. You're afraid of what it's going to cost you. You're afraid of how it might impact the other person. That's also something where there's a fear and that protection. So breaking through, we're going to really go there, and we're going to go through the worst case scenario. In our minds, kind of picture what is the worst thing that could happen if I do what I know I need to do. And we're going to live there. We're going to take our bodies there. And we're going to practice that fear in that moment and let the sensations come out. Let us feel ugly, uncomfortable, because the only way is to go through this. The discomfort has to be part of the process. And the next thing I want you to think about is, how likely is this worst case scenario? Because our mind loves to make up situations and scenarios, and yet it thinks that it can predict every possible scenario, which is practically impossible. There's fears, there's wounds, there's triggers that come up. And so I do want to challenge how probable facing that worst case scenario actually is. Another key common thing that kind of gets in the way of practicing and acting on our intuition is that we're vulnerable and therefore malleable. And, when I say that, I want you to think about a glass sculpture that is currently being formed. The sand is still hot and it hasn't quite fully cooled down yet. And there's still room for this crystal that's setting to really kind of mold it and shaped and kind of reform the identity a little bit. And that's exactly a spot where we find ourselves in sometimes, where we have our intuition come online, for example, yet there's other external voices or there's people pleasing that keeps us a little bit of a protective mode, but also this is where the vulnerable and malleable takes place. Because we're still potentially, if we're still deciding on if this is really the best course for me, others' actions, others' voices, and others' influences can come in the way and shape it and kind of separate you a little bit more further from what you need to do or whatever your knowing is. And that's a very protective time. And this is, from my experience, one of the hardest part about acting from your intuition. Protecting your energy, protecting yourself, and standing up for yourself. And much like in the first key theme, it's probably one of the most challenging parts. And I'm not gonna lie, that this is where you have to show yourself that you are your greatest ally. You're building your own trust with your own inner voice and your own truth, and drawing your strict boundaries, protecting your own energy, and really making sure that there's no more abandoning yourself for others' needs. There's no more of dismissing your own personal needs. And a way to think about this maybe is like a breakthrough question is, what is my current situation costing me? And sure, it might be costing you actual money, but what is it really costing you in your life? And how much longer can you sustain it? How does that really make you feel? Because if it's not your desired outcome, then I think the only way is to listen to what your inner knowing is. That requires a lot of strength and resilience, I will say, and relentlessly putting yourself first. A third way that acting on intuition gets blocked is to sometimes we really dismiss it with logic. And this is also very common, and I've done it too, where you have something where it's like, oh yeah, I need to do that, or like, yeah, that's what I know, that's what my body is telling me to do. But then the mind comes in and it says, well, it doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? We completely discredit and discount our intuition. And that's just sometimes the challenge that we have with our heart and our mind. And this is one where I like to think of it where the heart is inviting the mind to a party. And it's constantly giving this invite. And the mind is constantly in the, no, I don't gonna go. No, I'm too good for you right now. Like, I'm not going to accept your invite. The mind becomes a snooty part of, it takes over the heart. And overrules and overrides the heart. And over time, this friendship that the heart is being open to is going to be damaged, and it takes a while for that to repair. And the further we suppress our inner knowing or override it or discount it or dismiss it, the harder it is to resurface it, because the deeper we have to dig to bring it back up to life. The more work we've got to do, the more quiet time, the more reconnecting we have to do to bring it back up to the surface. And so, while it may not be fully perfect, and we still can do that from time to time, being aware of it is really important. And that's one of the key things I wanted to call out in this. So breaking through really means being aware and actually choosing to act from a lot of trust. And I understand it's easier said than done. But this is a process that cannot be rushed and will take time. And if you're looking for immediate results, unless you act in full trust and full faith and disregard the circumstances around you, I think that's going to be a lot of time and challenge and patience otherwise. So with these three big key areas of how intuition gets in our own way and how we get our own intuition, let me know what was helpful and some of the big takeaways and one action that you can take to help you cultivate your relationship with intuition. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you right here next time on Transform Anytime.